How's it going, everybody? My name is Cobra J, also known as Jason, or whatever you want to call me, and today I'm going to give you my thoughts on Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and kind of give you my review of everything up until, the end of the story. I love this game. Like, I genuinely had a blast playing it, especially on stream with you guys. It was super fun, but the game itself was honestly way better than I expected it to be, which is good, especially in 2020. There's been so many games this year that I have been absolutely, so excited for, and, they kind of let me down. So I was kind of hesitant and cautious to go into this game, but I knew Insomniac had already proven themselves with Spider-Man 4 PS4, and they did not disappoint whatsoever. So first off, I'm going to talk about the gameplay, because without good gameplay, you really don't have a good video game, even if the story is good. So at face value, the combat and the stealth is kind of really similar to Spider-Man PS4. I know you guys know that, but I think Insomniac did a really good job of changing up the character and making it feel like an entirely different game almost. Even though it's a lot of the same mechanics, it's a lot of the same, reactions. It's kind of the same Arkham style combat where, it's the dodge and then attack, and you have, your combo moves and your little special, aerial moves and stuff. All that is still there, but it's just the way it's executed that makes it infinitely better. The Venom Blast is absolutely so fun to use. I kind of spammed it a lot because it was just something cool to see, like Spider-Man doing, and then it's also just really effective to use in combat. It's just a really well crafted, and well fine-tuned, that's the word, combat. They really wanted to improve Spider-Man PS4, and I think they did that. They're kind of really lucky being able to have Miles Morales as their next character to have a game surrounded by, because his Venom Blast and his camo invisibility mode are kind of perfect for mixing it up and making it feel like an entirely different game, which it pretty much is, even though a lot of people are saying it's like an expansion or like a DLC. It is, but it isn't. You know what I mean. Am I recording? Oh, I am. Okay. I'm pretty sure I haven't even done all of the animations, or maybe I have, but every time you do those cool Venom Blast animations, or even just a counter animation, it just feels like a completely different Spider-Man. He's more just lanky and kind of just all over the place, which is what a young Spider-Man would be like. That also applies to the web swinging, which I absolutely love. You just feel lighter. You feel you're an inexperienced Spider-Man, just kind of going, just winging it basically. Where Peter was more fine-tuned, he was more rigid in his motion because he has it down to a T. He's been doing it for 8 years. Miles, this has just happened to, so it's kind of he kind of doesn't really know how to, react or move his body in certain swinging motions, and that's not something Peter can necessarily teach him. So it's really cool just to see that, and then as his character progresses, probably in the next Spider-Man game, we're going to see him a little bit more, like Peter, more fine-tuned. And if you notice, there's a lot of motions that look kind of similar to Spider-Verse, so it's kind of good for Insomniac that they had an actual movie to kind of reference off of in terms of visual media, because there hasn't really been that much for Miles Morales. So they have that as a kind of a reference, how do people respond, what did they like about this, what did they not like. And to talk about the story, it was very much a Spider-Man story. A lot of the best Spider-Man stories are when Peter and Spider-Man's lives collide, and that's the same thing goes for Miles here in this game. A common theme with Spider-Man is that a lot of his villains he knows in real life, and it's well, what are the odds of that? I don't know. It's just cool to have those moments where you as a player, a viewer of this cutscene or this moment in the game, you're kind of just so invested that you feel what Miles is feeling. You know what I mean? That's really cool. You really do feel like you are a part of the story, because I found myself just yelling at the Prowler or Finn, just stop what you're doing, please listen to me. This game really does make you feel like Spider-Man, basically. And this story and just the overall vibe of this game does feel a lot more homey, you know what I mean? It feels more grounded, it feels more like you're in a real environment, like a neighborhood environment. And Peter Parker, the last game, you got a scope for New York, but not a small section of New York, you know what I mean? In Spider-Man stories, it's always oh, you can feel New York. New York is its own character, yeah, but New York is big. How do those smaller boroughs feel? And Miles Morales shows how diverse and how colorful Harlem is. So that was a really nice touch, and it was also really important for the story. And you want to feel invested in, his environment and his home, because a lot of the end of the world stuff it's crazy and high stakes, but you don't necessarily feel that connection, oh, if this happens, everyone dies, so everyone dies. But if it's his home, his section of New York. Harlem is in danger. That's kind of different. And the way that it portrays like a younger Spider-Man just trying to figure this out on his own, but also having to have an older Spider-Man to compare himself to. You know what I mean? Peter didn't really have to deal with that because he was a lone Spider-Man, basically. He had no mentors, really. No superhero mentors, not that we know of at least. So there's kind of a lot more pressure on Miles to prove himself. And the main tagline of this game is be yourself. So at a certain point, he stops, you know, trying to compare himself to Spider-Man and learns to become his own Spider-Man. He is Spider-Man. Spider-Man is not Peter Parker. Spider-Man is a symbol, almost like Batman. Like anyone can be under the mask. You know what I mean? And that's a really cool message that even Stan Lee has said years back. I remember watching like the 2002 Spider-Man Blu-ray, or not the Blu-ray, oh my god, like the extra bonus content, you know, and seeing him say like, Spider-Man can be anybody. It doesn't matter who's under the mask. It's what you do with the mask. It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. I like how they kind of flipped the whole like rivalry, like criminal sides. You know, like the first Spider-Man, it was Silver Sable's like military militia or whatever they're called, and then the demons. You know what I mean? This game, it's the underground and Roxxon. And at first, you kind of assume that both sides are bad, but then you get to know Finn and you understand that the Tinkerer is Finn, and you see her reasoning as to why she's doing what she's doing, and it's really compelling, and it really kind of tears you apart on the inside because you're like, okay, we gotta stop these guys, but at the same time, she has a good reason, and it ultimately ends in the villain trying to do what she thinks is right. You're trying to stop her, like trying to make her understand, like, no, please stop what you're doing. I understand. I know you mean well, but you're gonna kill us all. And I thought the characters were pretty fleshed out, well, as much as they could be in a video game. You get a sense of Rio Morales, Miles's mom, and how hardworking she is and how determined she is and how she really won't stop and she will fight for whatever she believes in, and that's really respectable. You really get a sense of who she is. Genki, he is super funny. He is, you know, kind of the guy in the chair, not to compare him to Ned Leeds, but Ned Leeds is based off of him. So if you're going to compare him to Ned Leeds, it should be the other way around. And it's nice for Miles to have someone to confide in and talk about Spider-Man stuff with. Not necessarily complain about Spider-Man with, but just to kind of be like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I'm Spider-Man and you're helping me like beat up these dudes and like take down these corporations. That's really cool. So your villains, you got the I don't even know his name. That should say something. The corporate Roxxon guy. Didn't really get a sense of him other than I like money and I am a corporate evil man. That's pretty much all you're gonna get out of him, and that's really all he needed to be. You know, there was no personal like connection with him or to Miles or anything that would make you like him even a little bit. He's supposed to be like the one side where there's no question about where his allegiances lie. He is an evil, bad, no dude. And then you have Finn, aka the Tinkerer, and then Aaron Davis, the Prowler, and it's really cool seeing Miles torn between them. Like, he wants to stop her, and she wants to stop the corporation, but then he's tied into the corporation, and then Miles is trying to stop all three of them. Like, everyone chill out. Spider-Man. And for the most part, Finn and Uncle Aaron don't really want to hurt Miles, but there are moments where you're fighting them, or you're, like, disagreeing with them, and their dialogue is kind of, like, villainy dialogue. Like, there's one part where he's fighting the Tinker and she's like, I've defeated you before and I will do it again. Like, that's just a really cheesy line, and it sounds like, I don't know, that's just a villain line. And then there's one part where you're fighting the Prowler and he says, yo, you're nothing without this suit, or something like that. Like, what are you without that suit, or something like that. It was just such like a villain thing to say. Like, and then he was trying to fight Miles with his gauntlets, just like going at him. Like, I get that you want to stop him, but dude, if you actually hit him, you could potentially kill him. You know what I mean? Same thing with Finn. She literally threatens to kill Miles if he does not get out of the way. But I mean, I guess they had to show that she was willing to do that to save everyone else, because she believed that she was doing the right thing. Lastly, I want to talk about the suits in general, not one by one, but just like overall. I really liked the suits that they picked out for this game. There's a lot more variety and uniqueness to them, especially like with the animated suits. You got like your Ultimate Spider-Man like cartoon one, you got your Spider-Verse suit. Those are really cool and unique because not only are they like different skins, but they feel and just I don't know, it looks completely different when you're playing. So you could do an entire playthrough really with like the animated suits, and it could feel like an entirely different game. And yeah, just in general, like all the suits are really cool. Like I have a hard time picking which one I want to play as because they seriously all look so cool. There's a couple in there that are like meh, but for the most part, a lot of these suits are really hard to choose from. The game was cool. The game was good. The game was fun. That's what a video game should be. It should make you like laugh. It should make you cry. It should make you say it's awesome like a million times. Because of this game being so short, it left me wanting more. And that's honestly one of like the good and bad things about this game. It's really good, and you kind of get mad when it's over because it was like, dude, that went by in a flash. I'm gonna have to give this game a 9 out of 10. If it was longer and held up the same amount of quality, I would give it a 10 out of 10, but that's just my opinion. 9 out of 10, Miles Morales. I hope you guys like this review. I've never really done a review before, so it's kind of weird. I feel like I should have by now in like 2 years of making videos, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know your opinions on Miles Morales. Let me know your predictions on what's going to happen in Spider-Man 2 for the PS5. That's enough out of me, and I will see you guys next time.